Hello again, it's Mihaela Telecan, your host. Um, that's an incredible introduction. Okay, for those of you who do not know me, I'm Mihaela Telecan. I'm the owner of Healing with Foods and the host of this Facebook page. If you happen to watch this video on Facebook, if you happen to watch it on YouTube, it's going to be the owner of this YouTube channel, or if it's on my blog, I'm the person behind this blog. Anyhow, I put a big claim in there saying this, fill in the blank, we'll find out what this is, can make you smarter and younger. That's a big, bold claim, and I'm going to convince you by the end of today's video talk, that this is true. So anyway, yesterday I talked about the benefits of being in the sun, so I decided to take my laptop out and work out on my balcony here today, to be in the sun, to get more of that wonderful easy water inside my cells. And I'm coming back to talk about this particular change that you can make very successfully to power up your brain and decrease premature aging, and possibly even reverse some of the damage that you've done over time. So let's start first with saying what this is. This is fasting. Lately, I've been talking with you about fasting as in intermittent fasting. I'm not talking about prolonged, months-long fast. I'm talking about intermittent fasting, which is done in many ways. The way I follow and I highly recommend is the compressed eating window. And its benefits on our health overall. We kind of talked about the benefits with regards to weight loss, with regards to managing diabetes, with regards to improving lipid panel, for physical performance. Today, this one is really grande, as in big. Today, I'm talking about how fasting can make you smarter, how it improves your cognitive function and prevents age-related cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, and maybe possibly even reverses Alzheimer's. So first of all, when we hear the word fasting, we are all freaking out thinking, oh, OMG, if I fast, I'm gonna starve, I'm not gonna have energy, I'm gonna lose muscle, it's not compatible with life. Well, again, we want to go back and see how our ancestors actually lived. Did they ever fast? And if they did, for how long? And let me tell you something. They did more than an 18-hour fast, which is the one I kind of do and recommend, or a 24-hour fast. They most likely went for maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 days of fasting, or rather prolonged fast. And they survived. Hence we are here today. And why is that? Because when they had no access to food, when they were forced to fast, would have lost their mental acuity, their mental ability, their ability to be sharp and find food, if they've lost their muscle mass and muscle power, they would not have been able to run and hunt or go and dig and gather food. Hence we would not have been here today. So it's a very adaptive, survival adaptive mechanism that we all human beings have built in within ourselves. The fact that we are not using it today, it doesn't mean it's no longer there. It's within us. So science today, as I said yesterday, is nice because science today comes to prove the obvious. It's actually showing us how fasting is good for your mind. Why, when you're fasting, you're actually sharper than when you eat. And you probably remember days when you had like a feast, when you ate a lot, like a birthday or some kind of a party or a holiday, and afterwards all you wanted to do was lie down and sleep or watch TV. It's that food coma that you experiment. Because when we eat, especially if it's large volume, most not most, but a lot of the blood supply actually favors the stomach to support digestion of food. So brain feels a little bit neglected, hence you would rather sleep than be active and alert. So and the opposite happens when you are fasting. You are more alert, you have clear thinking, like a veil of fog lifts away, and all of a sudden you focus better, you're sharper, all your senses are alert, and that's totally makes sense evolutionary speaking. Now let's see what science shows us today. What science shows us today is that actually when we fast, in the absence of food, our brain increases the production of this special protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's a protein that supports brain growth. It's almost like a growth hormone for the brain. It supports formation of new neuronal connections and even new neurons. Part of this neuroplasticity that we know now, there is such thing. Before we thought once you lose a neuron it's gone forever, but now we know it's not like that. So when you fast, you have an increased production of this brain-derived BDNF in short, and a reduction of insulin. Both of these put together, they have increased effect on your memory. So there were studies done on aging rats that started this intermittent fasting, and it showed improvement in their motor, coordination, cognition, learning, and memory functions. Okay, this is in rats. However, we know in human studies, caloric reduction also finds similar neurological improvements. So try it for yourself if you don't believe me. Try to skip a meal or two and see how your brain feels. Now, mind you, first, if you are eating a so-called normal diet, which is at least moderate in carbohydrate intake, which provides your brain with constant supply of sugar, when you don't eat, because sugar doesn't come out from the external source, your brain is going to feel shaky and upset. So you are going to feel worse first before you start feeling better. That's why I always say first try the whole foods low carb diet and then venture into intermittent fasting. But anyway, try it and see if I'm right or wrong with regards to your memory and your cognition while you are fasting or eating less often, let's say. So those were two things with regards to your brain on fasting this time, not on food. Now, aside for a significant reduction in inflammation when we fast and a significant drop in the insulin level, which these two kind of feed each other. When you have less insulin, you have less inflammation. Not necessarily when you have less inflammation, you have less insulin. That doesn't really, it's more, the insulin has more effect on inflammation. But now let's go into how it helps with anti-aging. First, let me see time-wise here. Our body has a built-in rejuvenation system. It's called apoptosis. What does it mean? Every cell of the body has a certain lifespan. As it approaches the end of its life, it basically commits suicide. It's like programmed death. It's called apoptosis. So this is a normal, natural process that we have. All the cells of our body go through this. So they are born and then die. Each one has different lifespan. Like, for instance, enterocytes, the cell of the intestinal wall, they have a very short life, 24, 48 hours long, for example, to give you an example. So that means every 2 days you have like new intestinal cells. And this process is very important for continual renewal of your body. It's like taking out the trash on regular basis, or I should say when the trash is scheduled to come, right? You make sure you take out all your trash out. That's apoptosis. When the cells are not ready to die throughout their lifespan, they accumulate junk inside, so, or we accumulate junk inside the cells, and what our body is programmed to do is to regularly take out this trash. It's called autophagia. Auto means you, phagia means eating, so you eat yourself away. Basically, our body has the ability to go to the cell and say this cell still has to live another 3 months but has a lot of junk inside, cleans out the junk. It's like taking out the trash regularly, putting it outside in the big bin before it gets picked up. Well, this process of autophagia, turns out, is controlled by a system called mTOR. It's mammals, it's us, mammals. Let me just give you it's mTOR, and it stands for, yes, here. Because I want to make sure, rapamycin protein. I want to give you the correct name. Oh great, this is nice. Now when I look for it, I don't find it. I took notes, mTOR. I should have underlined it, right? Yes, I can pronounce this. Mammalian target of rapamycin. Stands for mTOR. It's like a sensor that registers when food comes in and when there's no food. What happens when this mTOR is stimulated by food, it turns off autophagy. In other words, when you constantly eat, you suppress your ability, your body's own ability to clean itself, to eat itself away of the bad stuff, if that makes any sense. Does it make sense? So the more we eat, the less we clean inside cellular debris that accumulates and leads to premature aging or cancer or Alzheimer or any other chronic condition that you can think of, pretty much, because everything happens at the cellular level. For you to be full-blown with thyroid issues, first every cell of the thyroid has to be affected some way or another by toxins. Is this still going on? I hope you guys can hear me. Feel free to ask questions if you have. I'm going to try to break this down again. So, autophagy, we clean ourselves. We eat the cellular debris, cellular junk that accumulates, like proteins, denatured proteins, and other toxic compounds that accumulate inside our cells when we do not eat. Every time we eat, we stimulate this mTOR factor or sensor, which stops autophagy. Now, what stimulates, I said we eat, but from foods, in particular, what stimulates this mTOR, what turns on or off this sensor is glucose or carbohydrates and protein. First and foremost, glucose. It's basically turned on and off by insulin. And we already know that from all the macronutrients we get from food, carbohydrates, protein, and fats, carbohydrates have the highest insulin response, then is protein, and fats basically have no insulin response. So what conclusion we draw from here? If we eat a very low carbohydrate diet and we put that together with an intermittent fasting, we have a beautiful combination that keeps that mTOR sensor suppressed most of the time. Hence, our body has the ability to go in and clean itself out of all the damage, cellular damage that accumulates over time. It's like detoxing or cleansing or rebooting your own system on a regular basis. So eating 6 meals a day, like I said before, may not be your best option. Not when it comes to losing weight, not when it comes to sustainable energy, not when it comes to preventing cancer, not when it comes to improving your memory or anti-aging benefits. So I think this is kind of the nut and bolts of that. So mTOR is like a food sensor, gets activated by the presence of insulin, which is stimulated by the consumption of glucose and protein in your foods. So the more often you eat, the more you you turn on the mTOR, which blocks your autophagy, your ability to clean yourself or cellular garbage. At the same time, so going back to why it's good to fast. So when you eat less, mTOR is suppressed. That means autophagy, self-cleaning is upregulated. So you rejuvenate your body. And also because in the absence of food and in the absence of carbohydrates, your body starts to produce counter-regulatory hormones such as growth hormone, which I talked about previously. When this growth hormone goes up, what does it do? It stimulates the production of new proteins. So you get rid of the old bad proteins and you produce new ones. So you reset your system. I said remove the old and rebuild the new. How do you remove the old? The exact process, it is actually the gluconeogenesis. We talked about this before. When you don't have food coming in, particularly when you don't have carbohydrates coming in or protein that gives you free amino acids, the body figures out a way to produce its own glucose. It's called gluconeogenesis, meaning produces glucose from other new sources other than carbohydrates. And one way in which it does the first thing when there's no food, mTOR is suppressed, body goes and says, where do I have protein that's no longer good, no longer needed? I can use it to make glucose. So the brain and the red blood cell and the kidney medulla and the retina of the eye is all happy, doesn't have to suffer because glucose doesn't come from the outside. So that's how you break down amyloid plaque that clogs the brain and leads to Alzheimer's. That's how you break down cancerous cells that are forming or already formed, so you shrink tumors. That's how you break down arterial plaque that's been going. That's how you reduce proteins that accumulate in your joints and lead to arthritis or any other inflammatory proteins in the system. So that's why it's good to fast. Do not be afraid of fasting. And then because of the increased production of growth hormone, you start to produce new proteins when you eat next. That's why when you eat next, you want to make sure you eat whole foods, preferably organic if possible, non-GMO, locally grown, and keep it low carb. If you target serious conditions like cancer, diabetes, or even if you look for physical performance and endless energy, you want to keep it low carb. You want to become, and I'm going to call it from this point on, a keto burner, not even a fat burner. You are a fat burner, but what you really burn at cellular level mostly is ketone bodies. So that's what I have to share today. I know this is not necessarily easy to grasp information. I hope I was able to explain it so you could get the fact that the less you eat, the more you rejuvenate your body. That's why it has an anti-aging effect. And plus, it has benefits for the brain because of the increased production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Same does high-intensity interval training. And I hope I'm getting you excited and inspired to try intermittent fasting. And if you would like help with this, I would love to support you. Very soon, very soon, it's going to be February towards the end. I'm launching a program that aims to help exactly with this, to move you from here where you are, packaged processed foods, to whole foods, fat burning via low carb and intermittent fasting, and help you get your best health and energy ever that you can think of, even more than when you were 20 years old. Like you're not gonna envy anymore your 5-year-old kid or nephew or somebody that has that energy that like energizes bunnies. Thank you. If you're watching the recording of this video and you want to put comments, I love having comments from you, and I'll be back soon with another video. Have the bestest day ever. Get some sun to produce more of that easy water, and if you missed that video, look down below, you're gonna find it. Check my website, join my free private Facebook group, and stay tuned. Soon I'm going to open the program that will help you put all this together. Bye.